Welcome to Azeroth United, a weekly podcast about World of Warcraft. My name is Denethar, and I am your host.
Welcome, everyone. Thank you so much for joining. It's Monday night in Azeroth, and we've got a great show lined up for you. We're going to be talking about the reactions by some of the community members to the story that is playing out so far in World of Warcraft Midnight. I'm trying to choose my words here really carefully. Some people are mad, and I'll get into it. It's it's one of those things that everybody has the right to their own opinion, and I'm here for it. But I have the right to mine, so I'm gonna voice mine here on my podcast because that's what I can do. So anyway, all that and more coming up tonight on Azeroth United. So pull up a chair, sit back, relax, and enjoy. Before I get into all of the drama surrounding all that, I did want to do a quick rundown of what I got up to last week in WoW. So it was a little weird last week for Raid because we had a few people out, and that didn't go so well in terms of the subs we got. And so first off, Burning Crusade, you've got 10-player raid and you've got 25-player raid. And it's a hard number. It's not like Flex, where in modern WoW, where you can, let's bring 12, let's bring 17. So if you're missing someone, it really hurts. It hurts the team. It hurts your DPS, it hurts your healing, whatever it is. Now, some fights you can get through it, no problem. Some fights are a lot harder. So, so we were down 1 for Karazhan last week, which was frustrating, and I think everyone was really upset by that. It turns out our warlock had gotten hit by a drunk driver, and that's why he wasn't there. So, that's understandable, and got to take care of IRL. So we 9-manned Karazhan, and it was fine. We got through everything. We took a few attempts on Nightbane because I think we had some bad luck attempts on Nightbane. So let's just leave it at that. But we got through everything except for Nether Spite, which, that's a tough one because if you mess up one beam, then yeah. So we messed up the green beam, and then the tank was taking too much damage from the red beam, and it didn't work out so well. And so we didn't kill Nether Spite, but we killed everything else, and that was good. As far as the 25s go, those are like automatic now. So don't even have to worry about that. We were going to try and run some heroics after raid, but it took us so long because we only had 9 people in there that we ended up not doing heroics after all. So, which kind of sucked, but we got some time still. It's not like it's coming this week. Phase 2 is not coming this week. So we don't even have a release date yet. Now, it's possible that after I upload this episode, and as soon as it gets out to everyone, Blizzard will announce the release date. That's what I'm predicting will happen, but I guess that's how it goes. But aside from raid, most of what I was doing in game was I'm leveling up my paladins. So I'm taking my time. I'm not trying to rush. I'm not burning through the speed level, but I'm doing a lot more tanking in dungeons. It took me a while to kind of get my flow and realize how exactly I needed to do this. So I'm running in. I've got 3 stacks of Morning Glory. I'm 51. I've got 3 stacks of Morning Glory Dew, 15 mana potions, and that's my dungeon running complement. That's what I need to get through a dungeon. Because on a prop paladin, if you go in and you kill a group and you're like, all right, everything's cool, I need to sit and drink. You sit and drink, and somebody butt pulls a patrol. And so now I've got to get up and immediately take on this patrol with no mana. So I have to have the mana potions ready and available to go in those circumstances, which, when you're leveling, that does happen quite a bit where people butt pull the wrong thing. They're out of position. It's not a big deal. I needed to be prepared as the tank. How do I handle this? And so I had to learn. So I got through it. Ended up tanking 3 Zul'Faraks and a Maraudon, which was fun. Zul'Farak that's got to be one of my favorite dungeons that Blizzard has ever done. Yes, the trash can be kind of annoying because it's spread out. It's not all groups. You have a lot of patrols, but you have a lot of casters who are spread out, or they have archers. But learning how to line up sights, how to properly crowd control. We did have a rogue in one of the runs, which was nice. Not a lot of rogues and mages leveling up, I'll tell you. At least not running dungeons. You get a lot of hunters, shaman, warlocks, uh, yeah, paladins. So yeah, it was fun. I had a good time, and I'm like I said, I'm learning how to tank as a paladin, but also relearning some of the changes that were made to the world in Burning Crusade, because a lot of those old quests that in vanilla were elite quests, now they're not. So I was looking for help with the saving Sharpbeak quest line in the hinterlands, and then I realized, oh, I could just kill these guys. Yes, I have to move slow, but I can pretty much kill everything. So I did. I went in and I killed everything, and it was easy. I just soloed it, which is weird because I'm not used to that. I'm used to this is like a momentous event. Oh, it's time to go into Jinta Allure and do all the quests there, because you've got saving Sharpbeak, you've got to create the mallet for Zul'Farrak, and you've got to do the Ancient Egg quest line so you can summon Hukar in the Sunken Temple. So anyway, so I got all that done, which felt great because it's like, okay, I'm done with this zone. Pretty much the only thing I have left in the hinterlands is there's a quest line in Tanaris where you have to go find the Laden Dugland, I think it is. And then after that, you have to go to the hinterlands and get something from the water. But it's just you jump in the lake, you swim to the bottom, you get the item, you swim out, and you're done. So that's it. So I'm pretty much done with hinterlands. I'm pretty much done with Feralis and Tanaris. So I guess it's time to move on to Ungoro or Felwood. So yeah, so that's where I am. It's so much easier to level now because the reduced XP, it makes it go so much faster. I'm really liking it, and I'll tell you, as I'm going through and leveling another alt, and I'm realizing that this is what I wanted from Classic. This is why I'm playing Classic. It's not, oh, the raids are fun, and being in a raiding guild and hanging out with people, that's fun. But what I really love about Classic is the leveling. That journey. It's not, you want to level in midnight, take an afternoon. You want to go slow, take a weekend. But otherwise, that's it. That's all it takes. Run a couple dungeons, do some delves. You're done. You're level 90. It's over. So I almost said 80, and I was like, no, I don't think it's 80. So yeah, I don't know. It just feels weird. But yeah, I'm having a good time. I'm really, really enjoying it, and I'm getting to meet people. And that's the other thing that's really great about Classic is that you run a dungeon at level 49 or something, and at the end everyone's like, hey, good job, and everyone runs out of Zul'Farrak together because you've got to, it's everybody's Hearthstone is like in Alliance, so we're all in Stormwind or Ironforge is where our Hearthstones are. So you want to run out because you got to go turn on all those quests. You don't have to fly all the way back over there. So I mean, it just more of a community thing. And so as you're running out, people are like, hey, can I add you to friends? Yeah, I'll add you to friends. I have a whole bunch of people that I've added to friends over the past, I don't know, I'd say the past 2 weeks since I started playing my Paladin again. And it's nice. I'm really enjoying it. I'm having such a good time. It's things like this that remind me of why I love this game so much, because there's certain aspects of the game that I'm aware of and I understand, but I'm like, I don't love this aspect of the game. I don't love the way that the raids are nowadays. They're not fun. At least for me. I used to do at least normal or LFR. I don't even want to do that anymore. It's not fun. People are mad. People are toxic. And I guess it would be different if I was in a guild that was running it. But yeah, it's just too much going on. I would rather go and have something calm and relaxed that I can hang out with my friends and have a good time. That's what I'm looking for. That's not what everyone's looking for, but that's what I need right now anyway, is that. So that definitely helps. Anyway, so that's most of what I did. The weather has been beautiful, so I did spend a good chunk of time this weekend out in the yard working on some stuff. The dogs have scattered a million sticks out there, and I haven't mowed in forever, so the grass is starting to come up, and so I've got to mow. I've got to clean up all the sticks. My wife took out a bunch of honeysuckle, so I've got to break that up and either burn it or compost it or whatever. But it's we're moving into spring, or we're in spring, and we're going into summer coming up soon, and The weather's getting warm, and it's warm here in Ohio. We're already in the 80s. We almost hit 90 yesterday, which was crazy in April, but that's how it goes. So, and hey, you know what? I'll take the warm over, -2 degrees, which we got this winter. It was cold. It was to the point where you're like, I don't want to do anything. I just want to stay in the house, curled up in a blanket, eating a box of Snickers. So anyway, that's what I got up to last week. And wow, it was a good week, and I had a lot of fun. Trying to run the raid team and manage all of that stuff. It's a challenge, and part of me is whispering, hey, this might not be good long term. Maybe you should, I don't know that this is the right thing for you to be doing. But I'm having fun. I'm having a good time. And yes, it is stressful. And there's it's a big time commitment that I had to make. But so far it's going pretty well. But I do have concerns that, as we get into summer and I've got my daughter's wedding coming up, I'm going to be a lot busier than my raid team will need somebody around. So I might talk to the guild leader and just say, look, I might need to bounce for the summer or something. I don't know. We'll see. But that's a conversation for another day. It's not happening this week. So anyway, that's what I got up to last week. Wow. Yeah. So I think, what we're going to do is we're going to jump into, I've got a forum post of the week that I want to do, and then we'll get into the news. Okay. So I need to come up with a new name for this segment. This is one of the reasons why I haven't done a theme song or a bumper for this one. Because it's not always the forum. Sometimes it's Reddit. Sometimes it's a YouTube video, different things. But this one was actually really interesting. So I saw this one. Then Stug Life also posted this in the Azeroth United Discord, which you can get to by going to AzerothUnitedPod.com. And basically what it's a video, and I had it up and then I closed all my browser windows, so I don't have it up anymore. But anyway, I'll put it in the show notes if you really want to watch it. But it's basically, or it's in the Discord if you want to check it out there. It's talking about how Legion changed WoW and how basically Blizzard learned all the wrong lessons from that change. So if you look back to, and we're going to get into this a little bit later when it comes to the story as well, about Blizzard learning the wrong lessons and things like that. But right now we're just talking about the systems in the game. Basically what happened is they had some difficulties with Warlords of Draenor. They really just reset everything, and they dumped all of their resources, human resources, into building Legion, and kind of left Warlords of Draenor out to dry, which we all know. That's a pretty well-known fact. But if you don't know, basically what happened is the reason Warlords of Draenor feels so weird is because Blizzard basically abandoned it right after launch and put all the time and resources into building Legion. So that being said, Legion was great. There were so many aspects of Legion that were well remembered. None, I would say, more so than the artifact weapons, but the class order halls came a close second. But one of the things that I think a lot of times people forget about Legion is that Legion ushered in the new era of combat and gear that basically changed the way that we approach the game. Right now I'm playing Burning Crusade, and you want to get a piece of gear, and so you get one that has this stat and that stat or whatever. Nothing is clear, right? So I could get a piece of gear that has strength, agility, and stamina, or I could get another piece of gear that has agility, hit, and attack power, another one that has stamina, crit, and attack power. I mean, it's like all over the place where it's not clear what is better than another, right? So you can't look at the item level and go, well, this one has a higher item level, therefore it's better. That's why gear score doesn't work in the Burning Crusade, but it does in Wrath of the Lich King on, because they started to kind of homogenize the gear. Well, in Legion, what they did, and this video kind of details out, is they created this system where everything is super homogenous. There's no more guesswork. It's your item level is equal to your primary stat, and then you get 2 secondary stats. It's what we all know and love or hate from modern WoW gearing that started in Legion. And there are a lot of aspects to this video, like the Legion legendaries that became a real big problem, because if you didn't have the right Legion legendaries, then you were doing shit DPS, and right off the bat, you couldn't get more than 2. That was like your cap. You weren't able to earn more. There was a lot of things that were wrong with it, but the biggest thing that he put out in this video is how the combat system changed from the more traditional WoW style combat system, which we all know, especially if you've played Classic, you're familiar with how that combat system works. I've talked about how Mists of Pandaria was my favorite combat system because it had all the benefits of the new combat systems of modern WoW, but it still felt like the old style of combat from vanilla, Burning Crusade, and Classic, basically. Legion introduced a more ARPG style of play. It created the seasonal system. So you'll recall how in the old days you could run a raid and get a piece of gear, and then the new raid would come out and you'd still want to run that old raid because maybe that piece of gear was still pretty good. But once everything became super homogenous and all of the loot became very clearly tied to the item level of the raid, there was really no reason to go back and run old raids. Once the new raid came out, there was no point. Now, there was still a little bit of that play, like people were running Emerald Nightmare and Nighthold at the same time, but once Tomb of Sargeras came out, there was no reason to run Emerald Nightmare ever again. There was no reason to run Nighthold ever again, because the gear that you were going to get from Tomb of Sargeras was going to be so much better in every possible way. You weren't going to get that one chase item in the Nighthold that you really want. No, it's a waste of your time. So that all started with Legion, and that's a very ARPG thing. ARPG, for those of you who don't know or you haven't heard that term before, ARPG is an action role-playing game. Think like Diablo is a really good example of that. If you've ever played Diablo, if you've ever seen Diablo gameplay, it plays very similarly to WoW. I'd say it's somewhere in between WoW and League of Legends, where you've got fewer buttons, you got more right clicking, but essentially the combat is similar enough that it makes sense. If you've played WoW, then you could figure out Diablo pretty quickly. And so that was kind of the goal for Blizzard, was to take the game more in that direction and give it more of a seasonal style, so that this, from season to season, you would get all new gear. You would get all new, pretty much everything is going to reset after each season. That requires people to constantly be logging in, because you've got to build up. And then when the season's about to end, you're starting over. So you're basically getting rid of all your stuff. It was a really interesting video. I would definitely check it out. It was worth watching, but I think one of the things that I really liked about it is how it pointed out the flaws of the system and the benefits of it as well. And for better or for worse, this is what WoW is now. If you've ever wondered why it is that modern WoW feels so different from Classic, this is it. This is where they changed it. It was a conscious decision that was made by Blizzard to give the game a completely different vibe and have it become a seasonal game. That's why things are a little different now. So anyway, check it out. It's a good video. I really liked it. Thanks, Doug, for posting it in the Discord. Yeah, it's really interesting to kind of, Legion is often hailed as, it's the best X pack ever, or it's the second best X pack after Wrath or after Burning Crusade or whatever. People love different X packs for different reasons. Legion's often cited as the best or one of the best out there, but it certainly changed WoW. And if you don't like the way modern WoW works, you can blame Legion. Legion was the one that changed everything. Yes, a lot of that stuff was changed in Wrath or Mists of Pandaria. Mists of Pandaria introduced new talent trees. Wrath introduced, more season, not more seasonal, but the raid tiers were a lot more structured. But it wasn't until Legion that it became completely pointless to go back and run old stuff because of the way that the upgrades worked and the way that the seasonal gear worked. So anyway, I just wanted to point this out because I think it's really interesting. And this is the type of video that I think that people need to understand where some of these complaints and some of the frustration is coming from. So definitely go and watch that. I'll put the link in the show notes. Like I said, I closed it off and it's gone now, but yeah, I'm a real professional. All right, let's move on to the news.
It's time for the news.
In Blizzard news, so Whew. I was just looking for this the other day, and I there was no updates, and so we got this. I think it was 2 or 3 days ago. So Turtle WoW and Blizzard have settled their lawsuit. So basically, what's going to happen is they've come to an agreement on how they're going to settle everything. Blizzard will drop their lawsuit. The terms are confidential, but it's going to involve Turtle WoW shutting down their servers, allegedly. And also, they cannot remake those servers under a different name with a different. They can't reuse those assets. It's all gone. Turtle WoW is still up and running, last I checked. But basically, what happened is they decided that they were going to come to this agreement because the cost of fighting the legal battle became too much for them to deal with. So, if you're going to have a private server in the EU that Blizzard is trying to sue you on, it's only a matter of time before they come at you from that angle. So I think that's probably, where it's like if you can have all your money in, or if you can make your money still from running the server in Russia and having people subscribe from different locations, it's fine. But I think there's probably they saw the writing on the wall. Anyway, okay, so here's the current situation. So Blizzard is effectively won in court. A U.S. federal court has ruled in favor of Blizzard on its main claims. The judge issued a permanent injunction and a cease and desist order against Turtle WoW. That means that the named defendants are legally required to stop operating or supporting private WoW servers, stop distributing the client, code, and related materials, and to stop promoting or enabling similar projects. It means you can't start a new server with a different name, Tortoise WoW or something. The settlement reached, but the details are secret. After the ruling, both sides reached a settlement agreement. The terms are confidential, but is expected to resolve the entire case. So this is it. This is the final ruling. And Blizzard plans to formally dismiss the case after the conditions are met, which is estimated to be around June of 2026. So what this means for Turtle WoW is the ruling is very unfavorable to Turtle WoW. It likely forces a shutdown or a major restructuring. It blocks creating a successor or continuing under a new name using the same assets. So, for example, if Turtle WoW were to change their name to Turtle RPG and change all of the Blizzard-owned assets and Blizzard intellectual property, change it to all new. In other words, you reskin everything, come up with all new names, new cities, new everything. You change the whole game, basically. Then they can continue on. Because in a lot of ways, they've basically created a brand new game. But because they created that brand new game using Blizzard assets, that's what got them in trouble. So as of now, the site, server, Discord, all that, it's still online, but donations have already been disabled, so they're not making any more money off of it. The injunction applies to the defendants named in the U.S. case. So enforcement outside the U.S. can be messier, depending on where team members and servers are located, which is why I said they're operating out of Russia, Kazakhstan, and a couple of other places. It's going to be really hard to enforce that, but they are not going to be able to conduct business in, I guess, there's places where it's going to be not really feasible for them to continue on if they choose to ignore the ruling and the agreement. But again, we don't know the details of it. Maybe they're going to be allowed to continue on in Russia because, Blizzard can't touch them there. Not sure. So you might see a change in the websites. We've already seen that they're changed their website once. They might change their Discord server, how people log in, but Blizzard has leverage to kill them or to kill the project if they so choose, unless they go to places that are completely outside of the jurisdiction of the United States. And like I said, US, EU, some places in Asia where they're going to be like, no, sorry, you can't operate here. It's not going to work. You can't charge money. Maybe you can operate and people can get on and play the game, but you can't make money off of it, which is the whole point. They're trying to make money off of it. So, okay, so what happens next? Over the next couple of months through June of 2026, settlement conditions will be carried out. The case will be formally dismissed by Blizzard. most analysts expect a full shutdown or near total shutdown of Turtle WoW, or a heavily limited version that avoids direct infringement, which, like I said, that's going to be a lot of work. So probably not, at least not right away. Yeah. So basically Blizzard won, and Turtle WoW is going to go away, and they might come back in some different form later on, but for now it's gone. So the reason that I've been so fascinated by this case is because Turtle WoW did something that I feel Blizzard has thus far been unable to do, is they carried on the story. They took what happened in vanilla and they said, we're just going to keep going. We're going to add in new races. They added in the high elves. They added in the goblins. They changed the game, and they continued it on. It's like Lord of the Rings Part 2, which you continue the story on, which, they did a pretty good job with it. Looking through some of their material and some of their stuff on their Discord, it's impressive. Not all of it looks like it's going to work very well, but I mean, I didn't play it, but I'm looking through it and I'm like, they came up with some really good ideas. As the kids say, they cooked. So yeah, I mean, I think Blizzard's going to take some of this and go, all right, well, we're going to maybe not copy it, but we're going to use this as inspiration for how we're going to do Classic Plus. And we know that that's why this came about, because Blizzard is doing Classic Plus. And so they needed to get rid of the air quote competition, because you can't have them running around doing the same thing that you're doing and basically ruining your IP. And Blizzard has to enforce their trademarks or they'll lose them. So that's what we've got going on. So anyway, that's the situation there. Turtle WoW is essentially defeated, not gone yet, but it looks like that's only a matter of time. So there you go. That's what's going on with Blizzard and Turtle WoW. Yeah, it's good times. It's very, very interesting to me. So, all right, let's move on to Modern WoW. So the big announcement last week was the 12.0.5 content update will go live on April 21st. That's not this Tuesday, or when you're listening to this, next week. It's next week. So, yeah, it looks good, the stuff that they're coming up with. And again, like I said, Legion created this seasonal system for them. And so all of the things that they're coming up with, they're all tied to season 1 of Midnight. I get it. It would be cool if some of this stuff could stay around. Some of it is really related to or tied directly to Midnight and the Midnight Zones. But they can take some of these ideas and some of the things that they've put into, or that they will be putting into place for this patch, and use them in the future. So we'll see. Okay. The patch is going to include Void Assaults. So this is a new outdoor activity. We're going to have 2 different kinds. There's a Void Strike, which is the small ones, and these take place in Eversong Woods and Zul'Aman on a weekly rotation. Once they're completed, a new one will begin in another part of the zone, and it's just going to continue to rotate through. Once enough Void Strikes have been completed, then a Void Incursion will take place. And this is the larger one, and this is what's going to give you your weekly cash that's going to get you your piece of veteran gear and your currencies and whatnot. So that's what you're going to want to do there. It is also going to award you with the new currency, which is field accolades. So we'll get to that in just a second. The other new outdoor feature is ritual sites. Now it's sort of outdoor. It's actually a scenario. These are tiered, leveled scenarios for 1 to 5 players. There are 2. There's Daggerspine Point in Eversong Woods and Broken Throne in Zul'Aman. The way the scaling works is tier 1, you just go and do it. Tier 2, you have a challenge, and you get to choose which challenge you want to implement. Tier 3 is 2 challenges, tier 4 is 4 challenges, and tier 5 is 6 challenges. So obviously, the higher you go, the more likely you are going to want to bring somebody with you, multiple somebodies. You can go up to 5 players, but it is a scenario. And to me, this is really interesting because I've talked about how Blizzard introduced scenarios in Miss Pandaria and then kind of just let them go, and how Delves is kind of a modern reinterpretation of the scenario. But here we are with scenarios coming back, basically. So they're taking the Delve system and reapplying it to the scenario system so that you can go in and do this, but they've changed it so that you can scale the difficulty manually and say, I just want to do it by myself. I don't want anyone else. So you could do a tier 1. Maybe you could do a tier 2 or a tier 3 by yourself. I'm sure if you have really good gear, people will probably be doing 4s and 5s. Tanks will be doing 4s and 5s. But the idea is the higher you go, the more people you're going to want to invite. So again, it's going to be the same thing. You're going to get your cash with your currencies and your veteran piece of gear. So Void Assaults and Ritual Sites will both award, or they will grant you world content on your Great Vault. So you're going to get, if you are not doing raiding and you're not doing Mythic Plus, but you do want to fill up your Great Vaults, and maybe you only did a few delves and you just want to do a couple of other activities, this is a really good way to do it. This is good for people who are not looking to push high-end content and just want to run around the game and play and do fun things. That's what this is for. Blizzard is providing content for people of all levels, and I think that that's one of the greatest things that we've got in the game since Dragonflight, was Blizzard saying, hey, these other people that are not raiders or Mythic Plusers, they deserve content too. And they're giving it to us, because I am definitely one of those people. So, yeah. So, the Ritual Sites will also reward field accolades as a currency. And this is a patch specific currency that you'll be able to use to get, champion and hero track gear. So not sure the exact numbers and quantities and how exactly that's all going to work, but basically, this is our catch-up mechanism for people who are not raiding or doing Mythic Plus. This is how you're going to get some gear. No word on whether or not any of this stuff is going to be warbound, so it'll likely just be for your character. But if you have a character or an alt who doesn't have some gear, I know a lot of times people like to switch to a different character for the next season. So they go, well, I played a DK this time, but I'm going to switch to a mage next season. All right, well, run all this stuff on your mage so you can start getting some gear, so that you're not behind. So that way you can jump in and do your Mythic Plus and all that stuff before the end of the season. So, yeah, there you go. That's Void Assaults and Ritual Sites. The next thing is the Void Forge. Now, this one is the new Turbo Boost. And Blizzard have changed it. And I think I like how they changed it, but we're going to have to wait and see how it plays out. So basically, you're going to go into Voidstorm. You're going to help Decimus, which is the Dominar guy that nobody trusts. He's going to help you build the Void Forge. So there's going to be a couple different things that we're going to do with the Void Forge. First of all, once you built it, and doing the quests that you have to do to get it built, you're going to start collecting nebulous void cores. So every week your cap of void cores that you can get will increase by 2. And you have to get those void cores using either gold, Voidlight Marl, or veteran Dawn Crests. So it'll be a way to get rid of your veteran Dawn Crests. It's very smart of Blizzard to do that, because, everybody gets them, and then people are like, well, I don't know what to do with these. Well, now you know what to do with them. So the cap will increase by 2 every week, so that way you don't miss out. No more FOMO on these currencies, but yeah, definitely. You don't want to be so far behind that it's hard to get, but yeah, so you'll be able to do that. What these void cores will do is they will give you bonus rolls in the raids, the 3 different raids, Mythic Plus dungeons, bountiful delves, and nightmare prey hunts. So if you are doing any of that content, at the end when you get your reward, you will, or like in a raid after you kill a boss, you'll have the opportunity to bonus roll. And the way the bonus roll works is, instead of saying, hey, see if you get a piece of gear, it's going to give you a piece of gear from that boss. So you can target where you use your bonus rolls, and it'll show you, here's what you could potentially get from using this bonus roll. That's how people are going to catch up. Instead of being able to go spend a dinar to purchase the piece of gear that you want, you run the content that drops the piece of gear that you want, and then you use your bonus roll, and it gives you one of the things that boss drops that you can use. And it'll actually show you, here's the list of items that you could potentially get by using this. Once you get that item, it gets locked out. So if let's say you want a trinket from a certain boss in the raid, okay? It's your best trinket. So you use your bonus roll and you get boots. All right, well, next week you run it again, and this time you get a ring. Okay. Then now you're not going to get the boots and you're not going to get the ring. So now your chances of getting that trinket are much higher, because maybe there's 4 items. Now it's a 50-50 chance. Once you've gotten all the items, I don't know. I don't know why you would continue using your loot rolls on there, but I think you could probably get it again. I don't know. But that's their way that they're going to do this. They wanted to keep some friction in the loot and not just give you a deterministic loot system. And that's something I've talked about before. Is I don't think that deterministic loot systems are good for MMOs, but giving you some agency in how you choose your loot, I think it's a good idea. The other thing that the Void Forge is going to be useful for is gear upgrades. So basically what you're going to do is you're going to craft something called the Ascendant Nilhammer, and that's going to allow you to collect Ascendant Void Cores. And you're going to get those from the content that you normally do, raids, dungeons, delves, hunts. So you're going to get these Void Cores, and you're going to use those to upgrade weapons and trinkets. So the way it's going to work is if your piece of gear has to be fully upgraded. So if it's a hero piece, it has to be 6 of 6 hero. If it's myth track, it has to be 6 of 6 myth track. And then it will upgrade you 9 item levels on top of that. So if you have a hero piece, it'll take you up to 285. If you have a myth track piece, it'll take you to 298, which is obviously what you're going to want to do. You're going to want to spend your Ascendant Void Cores on your myth track gear, because I mean, you can spend it on your hero gear. Like for me, I'm probably never going to get myth track gear, so I'd probably just spend it on hero track gear. But if you think you might get some myth track gear, maybe you ran some 10s last week and you're like, well, what if I get something really good? Yeah. If you get that really good piece of gear, especially if it's, this is my best weapon, my best whatever, you'll be able to upgrade it. You'll also be able to upgrade your crafted items. And I believe it's the same volume, the same 9 item levels. So, yeah, I like this system on paper. Let's see how it plays out in practice, but I like the idea of this much better than just saying, hey, here's 2 more upgrade slots for you. I didn't like that. It felt like that created such a weird currency nightmare for people, because like, I've got all my gear upgraded, now I've got to go upgrade it again. It just feels weird. Whereas this, it's like, hey, I can target, I'm going to upgrade this one item, this is my good piece, whatever. No idea yet how the currency is going to, like the frequency of it or whatever, but I'm sure we'll get all that information once we start in with the system next week. So there you go. That's what's coming for the Void Forge. That one, to me, is really exciting. I really like that. I think that one's going to be really good. Okay. The other 2 things that are coming with the patch 12.0.5, aside from like hot fixes and patches and things like that, which we'll talk about all that next week. The other 2 things are the decor duels, which is the hide and seek, where you have one team dresses or transforms into a piece of decor, and the other team has to try and find them running around. So that sounds like fun. And then the other activity is the Abyss Anglers, and this is a underwater fish hunting thing that you can do activity. It looks like it's pretty self-contained. Like the items that you get are going to help you do a better job at Abyss Angler, and then your ultimate rewards are going to be some different cosmetics and things like that. So it looks like it's just something fun to do. I don't know that this is going to be some amazing thing that everyone's going to want to go do. I think a lot of people will probably just go check it out one time. And if you are, if it's something that really resonates with you, then yeah, okay, you go do that. But otherwise, that's it for patch 12.0.5. So it's a .5 patch, so we're not expecting a whole bunch of new content, but what we are getting seems like it's going to be pretty good. This new upgrade system sounds great to me. We've got a bunch of new world content, which is always nice, but like I said, that's not for everyone. And some people will go do that one time and then never touch it again. Some people will do it every week. I don't know. But giving you some options for things to do seems to be what Blizzard has decided that's how this is going to go. So I'm fine with that. Then just, okay, give us options as long as I can go do whatever I want. I didn't like it in the War Within when they changed it, where it's like, oh, that was a season 1 outdoor activity. That's not going to get you anything good anymore. I get that they're trying to get you to do all the new stuff, but anyway. All right. Let's talk about what's going on this weekend in World of Warcraft. The bonus event for this week is the Arena Skirmish event. You're going to get the Sign of the Skirmisher buff. Honor gains from Arena Skirmishes increased by 50%. You can pick up the quest, The Arena Calls, from Archmage Aethas Sunreaver in Silvermoon to win 10 arena skirmish battles, and you'll be rewarded with 110 conquest and 2,000 honor. I think 1 conquest is probably too many. Just ask Mark Grayson about that. And the PvP brawl for the week is Classic Ashran. Classic Ashran is an open-ended tug-of-war battleground with special events around the zone, including quests and events, blah, 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 blah. I hate Classic Ashran with a passion. I know there's people out there that love it, and good for you. That's not for me. When you zone in, you'll get the quest Something Different to win a PvP brawl, and you will be rewarded with conquest, honor, and marks of honor. There's a bunch of events coming up over the next few weeks and months, but right now it's kind of the calm before the storm, so just keep that in mind. You're like, hey, there's nothing going on. Yeah, it's kind of quiet right now, but it's going to ramp up. We've got Children's Week coming up. We're going to have the Summer Festival, and I mean, there's going to be a lot going on in World of Warcraft. And, one of the things that's really interesting to me is how, because we have 3 actual different versions of the game, because, when Classic went from vanilla to Burning Crusade and Wrath, it was like, okay, we've got all these holidays and you have to start paying attention to this stuff. And now that Anniversary is also on the Burning Crusade, you have 3 different versions of these kind of, because the holidays in vanilla were kind of sketch, it's like, there's really not a whole lot here. But once we got into TBC, these holidays really started to open up, and they got a lot more fleshed out. So it is kind of interesting seeing the 3 different versions of all the holidays going on. But anyway, that's all that's going on in World of Warcraft. So we're going to get into the main topic. This is something that's been bugging me, and I'm going to try and be clear and coherent on it. So buckle up.
It's time for the main topic of the week.
Okay, so here's the thing. Storytelling is difficult. What Blizzard is really good at when it comes to storytelling is lore. They're good at creating lore. If you go back and you read the manual for Warcraft 2 or Warcraft 3 or StarCraft or any of the stuff, the lore that they drop on you, so good. Telling a story in any kind of medium, but especially in a game, it can be tough. Because WoW is a massively multiplayer online RPG, you can't just tell a story. Like Baldur's Gate 3, you could tell a story and it's like, okay, here you go, here's the story. In WoW, you can't do that because, so if you recall, there was a push a while back for Blizzard to include different avenues for telling the story outside of raids, because that's where the big things happen. That's where the big boss is. That's where we go kill the big boss. Well, a lot of people don't want to run raids. And so they created story mode raid, which is fine. It's a thing. But telling the story through a raid is weird because, okay, here's why. I'm trying to create an actual understanding of all this here. When you watch a TV show, you watch that, you're streaming it every week, or maybe it's all at once, you can binge it. You're going to get the story pretty consistently. And the story is going to be told in a way that can be consumed by everyone at the same time in the same way. And while you might watch your show on your phone or on your tablet or on your PC or on your TV, doesn't matter. Everybody's watching the same show. So when Blizzard does story, they have to account for the fact that not everyone's going to consume the story in the same way. You might all see the same cinematic, but some people will watch it on Wowhead and have no idea who any of the people are. Some people might do it in raid, but then they have to skip it because you got to do loot. So it's a little weird. Plus, a lot of the setup, a lot of the buildup for those things takes place in quests that, quite honestly, a lot of them are really forgettable. There's some really good quests in WoW that you can look back on and you go, wow, that was a really good quest. That was really fun. I liked that. And then there are others that you're like, oh my God, okay, kill 5 of those guys. Okay, click on 4 of these items. Whatever. Some of the quests in WoW are not great. Some of them are. Some of them are really great. But the way that Blizzard tells a story is challenging because you can't just say, hey, here's the story. Blizzard decided especially after the fiasco of Battle for Azeroth, that they weren't going to tell any more stories. They weren't going to include the main part of the story in a outside of WoW medium, books, comics, audio dramas, any of that sort of thing. It's all flavor, that all of that outside content. Like if you read any of those books or watch the YouTube videos, any of the shorts, that's all outside flavor that adds to the lore of World of Warcraft, but it's not necessarily telling the story of the expansion. So Blizzard is left with quests and raids and raid cinematics, basically. Some Mythic Plus or Dungeon cinematics, more honestly, because you're not going to get cinematics in a Mythic Plus. So you're going to get some of that stuff in Dungeons, but for the most part, that all happens in raids. So it's difficult to get everyone on the same page to say, hey, we're all going to understand the story in the same way, because we're all watching the same show, which we're not. We're not all watching the same show. Anyway, so that's the dilemma. What Blizzard have done, though, is they've started to, so they'll have a quest line where it kind of tells a little bit of the story, and then they'll have the build up, and then the big cinematic at the end of the raid, which we've gotten used to. And we're going to go back to Legion for a second, because Legion did such a good job with that. Think about the finale cinematics for the raids. Whether it's, the Nighthold with Illidan's wings popping up behind Gul'dan. Oh my God, it's so good. Or the Tomb of Sargeras, where he actually brings Argus in between, or into the sky, above Azeroth, or the Argus finale, or the Antorus finale, where after we defeat Argus and the Pantheon is there, and they summon Sargeras back. I mean, that and the sword, Legion nailed it on so many fronts, but the storytelling in Legion was actually really, really well done, because it hit all the right high notes. And even if you didn't know all of the details of what was going on, like there was the whole Illidan quest line that not everyone did that. And so you didn't know his whole background, his whole story. And so when you watched the Rejection of the Gift cinematic in Antorus, or on Argus, okay, Illidan was mad and whatever. It doesn't ruin the scene, though, because it's simple enough to understand. Okay, this is pretty basic. Or like the Ysera quest line in Valshara. We get it. This is a dragon, and she got turned evil, and so we have to kill her. But then at the last second, she turns back to normal, and everyone feels sad. Okay, it's pretty clear. You don't need to know all the dragon lore to understand it, to feel something with that. The music hits just right. They did such a good job in Legion with cinematics. And then Battle for Azeroth happened, and Blizzard decided what they were going to do is they were going to start telling the story with more dialogue and less spectacle. And I think that's one of the problems that we've run into, is that all of these cinematics have these dialogues back and forth. And yes, some of them have some spectacle, and there's these big moments. But for the most part, the cinematics are just people talking to each other. And that's what the cinematic is. And that's not as interesting as, yeah, there was talking in Legion, but then you look and there's Argus in the sky, or, Sargeras with his sword stabbing the planet. That was the spectacle, that was the buildup. Without that, it's just Illidan and Velen talking, and that's it. It would have been so much more disappointing if we didn't get that big Sargeras reveal at the end of that cinematic. What I'm getting at is that Blizzard has kind of lost track of what it is that makes these cinematics interesting and what keeps people engaged in the story. And like I mentioned earlier, Blizzard continues to learn the wrong lesson from Legion over and over and over again. And it's really frustrating. So I don't know what the answer is. I don't necessarily have a fix, but, I was thinking about the different types of TV shows. When you watch a TV show and you go, hey, I was checking out this new show on Netflix or whatever. Modern streaming has changed the way that we consume TV. And so one of the things that it's changed is TV shows used to be a lot more episodic. So think like, Star Trek, the original Star Trek or the Next Generation. You could jump in and jump out and just check out, what's Captain Picard up to this week? Where are they going? What's Captain Kirk up to this week? You didn't have to watch every single episode in sequence, versus the later shows like Star Trek Picard, or Discovery, where you pretty much have to watch every single episode in sequence or you have no idea what's going on. And even then, sometimes you're like, what are we doing? It's a lot harder to write serial shows and tell stories in that way, because you have to build on everything that's already happened. You have to remember what you said 2 seasons ago, because the fans will remember. They'll come at you and they'll be like, hey, but you said 2 seasons ago that this couldn't happen because of that, and now you did that because of this. That's how it goes. The other type of TV show that you get a lot in this type of medium is you have the big story arc, and then you have episodic in between that. So, for example, like Deep Space Nine, you have these random episodic type sequences where the trials and tribulations, where the Deep Space Nine crew goes back in time to the original series episode, The Trouble with Tribbles. They meet Captain Kirk, Forrest Gump style, and do all that. It was a fun episode. It had nothing to do with the main story arc, which was the Dominion War. So, yeah, it works in the different types of shows. You can't just jump in and watch season 3, episode 7 of Stranger Things. You won't know what's going on. Or Game of Thrones. And I think the final season of Game of Thrones is another example of why it's so hard to write that style, because you've built up so many plot threads. You have all of these things, and it's like, how are you going to close all of these plot threads that you opened up because you didn't know what you were getting yourself into? And that's how you end up with the finale, or the final season of Game of Thrones, or the final season of Lost is another good example. If you watch Lost and you're like, man, all these mysteries, I wonder how we're going to solve everything. We're not. We're just going to stuff magic. So in World of Warcraft, these side quests that we do, you go into Zul'Aman, you go into Eversong Woods, you do these side quests, and they're fun. They add flavor to the world, but those are like those just random episodes where it's the creature of the week, or, the crew goes back in time and does this, but it's all resolved in 42 minutes. That's what these side quests are like. You go and it's 7 quests, this is a quest chain. You talk to if you're paying attention, they tell really interesting stories. If you're just trying to get XP or you're just trying to get gear, then okay, that's fine. But they help fill out the world and they tell those stories. It gives more than just this serialized story that's being told. So the main storyline that you do when you're leveling up, and then once you get to level 90, the storyline that you do, the raid stories, all of that put together tells the story of, say, Midnight Season 1, right? So if you said, hey, here's the season of Midnight, if you were able to put all of that into a digestible format, it would tell the story. The problem is that Blizzard doesn't know where to cut it off, because it's not a TV show. We're not going to have a season finale of Midnight season 1. It doesn't work that way. So what we get instead is these cinematics where it's like, hey, we're going to build up the next thing, and it's like, well, we didn't resolve this thing, we're just going to continue on, or the resolution wasn't satisfactory, and so we get like Dragonflight season 3 where it's like, yeah, I mean, technically we wrapped everything up, but it didn't feel good. I don't like the way that we just hand waved everything away, and the aspects got their powers back, and we're all, everything is fine. Yes, you can get into the substance of it and dive down into it and go, oh, well, Azeroth gave them their powers because she's trying to defend herself against, whatever forces. And yes, you can get into all that, but on a surface level, it just doesn't make sense because there's not enough depth to it. You can't tell a serialized story like this in cutscenes. It's just not going to work unless you have cutscenes every quest where you're telling the story of what's going on. And sometimes they do that. Sometimes they don't. Sometimes the cutscenes don't make any sense. Sometimes they just tell us what's happening in the moment, but don't explain anything that's going on outside of what you need to do for this one particular quest. And I think that's where Blizzard is falling down the most, is that they are not giving us the sense of satisfaction. Sylvanas showed up in that cinematic, and I still think that was a great cinematic for what it was, which is teasing the future of what's going to happen next. It did nothing to explain what's going on now. It did nothing to resolve the March on Quel'Danas. It did nothing to resolve Midnight Season 1. All we know is that the Void Drill went away, Xal'atath disappeared, Sylvanas went back to the Maw, and Barisa and Eretor were sitting there like, what the fuck just happened? That's all we know. And that's the frustration that people are having, is that Blizzard is not giving us that little bit extra detail that we need. Think about like at the end of Animal House, right? How they have that little text over where it shows what happened to all the different characters, right? And of course that was done comedically, but you could have a little bit more detail where you go, all right, here's what's going on. You know, that's why they stay a while and listens are good. But if you don't have that and you have something happen in the cinematic that makes no sense outside of it, if Varisa were to say, hey, champion, I want to talk to you about what just happened. I think here's what's going on with Sylvanas, and I think here's what we need to do. And that's fine. But they don't do that. And even still, people don't always click on stay a while and listen. And so if you don't click on it, then you missed out on that. Whereas if this was a TV show, again, you'd have that wrap up segment at the end of the show where they're like, well, Sylvanas will be back. Hopefully, she left us this pager that we can use to get a hold of her. We could just push this button and it sends out the bat signal for Sylvanas, and she'll show up whenever we need her. Because otherwise, what? How? First of all, how did she even know to arrive at that exact moment? And how did she get there from the Maw? How did she escape the Maw? How is she just making Maw portals all over the place? And how is she going to come back before the end begins? The end of what? It's all so vague and it's so ambiguous. And I like that there's mystery, but you have to resolve some things before you start opening new mysteries, or you end up with this mystery box format that never works, because the resolution, it's like what was in the briefcase in Pulp Fiction. We don't know because it was mystery. That was cool because it was one mystery. But if Pulp Fiction had been 20 different mysteries that had been added throughout the movie and none of them got resolved, people would hate Tarantino. They'd be like, this guy's an idiot. Some people hate him anyway. But as far as a film director, he's good at what he does because he understands that sometimes you need to keep it less. Less is more. You don't always need to show, and sometimes you need to show restraint. And that's just how it is. And Blizzard just keeps opening up new mysteries because they're so excited to tell the next story that they haven't resolved the first one yet. So I think, as long as Blizzard can start getting back to that, give us just a little bit of resolution. We don't need a ton. Just give us a little bit more than we're getting right now. And I think people would be infinitely happier with the storyline and with the way that the story is being told. There's a lot of accusations from people saying, oh, well, you just don't like the story because it's involving, a bunch of women. It's like, no, it's not about that. First of all, I love these characters. Okay. And I'm so intrigued by the story at this point that I'm not going to give up and say, oh, the story is, I hate the way Blizzard is doing this. But I do recognize that they struggle with how to tell a good, complete story. And that's where we're running into the biggest problem, is that these stories are incomplete. Yes, we might get some resolution down the road, or we might be able to explain things through a quest later on, or a stay a while and listen later on. But that's not how, if you're going to tell a story with all of these cinematics and do this spectacle, you can't have the payoff be somewhere else. It doesn't make any sense. That's why the Sargeras cinematic was so good. That was clear. He tried to kill the planet. The Pantheon sucked him back to wherever they are, and Illidan's there to, fight him or punch him in the face or whatever. That made sense. And it gave us a payoff, and we were all like, okay. Then going from that satisfaction of, okay, that's done. Now you lead in with the next mystery, which is, what's the deal with the sword? Okay, cool. And then there was a quest line for that and all that. That's fine. But that's how you do it. You don't lead with, where you pop in this mystery. There was no satisfaction from Xal'atath just pissing off and saying, okay, well, I'm just going to go somewhere else. Where did she go? Why was she there? What? And here's the other thing that got me about that. Not just that cinematic, but the build up for it. So Xal'atath spent all of the war within collecting power She put all of this power and energy into the Dark Heart. She got Dalaran, she got Beladar, she got whatever she got from the Nerubians. She had the essence of Galakron in there, and then she got the Dementius, the Void Lord. So all of that power was in the Dark Heart. And then she got the final ethereal guy, whatever power he gave her, and then she used that to create the Void Drill Spire thingy, and the Dark Heart. At that point, you see her just toss it on the ground. She's done with it. So she got all the power she needed, and she used the Dark Heart to enable her plan. Let's go. We're going to invade Azeroth. Okay. So what did she need Lura for? What was the point of that? She already had the Void Drill. She was already blasting Azeroth. What did she need the Naru for? The Dark Naru? Why? That was never explained. We don't understand it. And it doesn't make sense because we kill Lura and Xal'atath still drills into the planet and disappears. So did we win? Did we beat her? Is this a setback? Or is this exactly what she wants? I think that's the biggest frustration is we finished the raid tier and we don't know if we won or lost. If we're going to lose, let's lose. I'm all for it. Empire Strikes Back, let's go. We know at the end of Empire Strikes Back, there's no question they lost. Han Solo's gone. The rebels are scattered. Luke had his hand chopped off. They lost. If we're going to lose, let's lose. But we need to know that we lost. We have no clue. Did we win or lose? That should not be the case. So tell a coherent story, complete it. You don't need to spell out every detail, but at the end of the day, everyone should understand what happened. And there shouldn't be anything left to mystery. I do that all the time where I'll try and be clever about something and it's like, nobody knows what I'm talking about. So this is pointless. You explain it and then you go to people, hey, now, isn't this cool? And they go, oh yeah, that's really cool. Now that you've explained it and I understand it. Otherwise, yeah, it's all fluff. And that's what we've been getting, honestly. Since Battle for Azeroth, we've been getting a lot of fluff. And there's some good stories in there, I'll grant you. But it's a lot of fluff. A lot of fluff. And too much power of friendship. I'm all for the power of friendship. And I actually don't dislike the whole all the elves working together. I think that that's good because it's not like, hey, we're all one tribe now. They're like, we're still going to keep an eye on you. We still don't want you night elves here once this expansion's over. We're going to kick you guys out. So it's not like they're all best friends again, but I like the fact that they're all working together. I do agree that it would have been made a little bit more sense to have some Horde representation there, but I think we saw in The War Within that having the Horde or the Alliance go to a place is not an easy task, even if it's to defend a capital city, because what are you going to do? You go send this, they had an army. They had the Army of the Light there. All of a sudden, the Army of the Light's defeated. So now you've got to scramble the Horde to try and get over there. It's going to take them months to get there on ship. So I do understand that, but I think that could have been explained a little bit better because instead they managed to get all the elven tribes there really quickly. That doesn't make sense. So what are we doing, Blizzard? Again, it should be clear why something is or isn't happening. You don't need to go into a whole bunch of detail, but you can just throw in a line there that says the Horde is spread thin, fighting the Alliance, because yes, they're still fighting even after Dragonflight and all the power friendship. They're still fighting each other. So yeah, the Horde is spread thin across Azeroth in different skirmishes. Okay, that's fine. You can say that. And the council or Thrall or whoever doesn't want to risk sending a large horde, because if they send the entire horde army to Quel'Danas and they're all destroyed by the void, guess what's going to happen? The Alliance is going to come in and take over all the horde cities because now there's no horde army left, no horde navy, blah, blah, blah. There's a lot of reasons why the horde didn't show up there, but you could have just thrown in a little bit of information so that people go, okay, I don't love that, but it makes sense. That's it. That's all you have to do. So I think ultimately Blizzard needs to do a little bit better job of working on some of these stories and getting them to the point where they are satisfactory. They don't even have to make perfect sense. You just give us a satisfying conclusion to some of these, especially the final raid cinematic of a season. I should know exactly where we stand after that. Just like we knew exactly where we stood at the end of The War Within Season 1. That one was good. Insurrect dies, we kill her. Xalatath is like, yeah, basically I just used you to get everyone over here because I'm trying to get all of this stuff. Okay, that's fine. It didn't make perfect sense, but everybody knew where we stood at the end of that. And that cinematic worked. So, is any of this perfect? No. But, this is why we need a WoW TV show or an animated series or whatever. I'd probably prefer an animated series at this point, but I'd watch a TV show too. So anyway, there you go. All right. That's my thoughts on that. All right. That's going to wrap up our show for today. Thank you so much for listening and for watching. I really do appreciate it. It is always a pleasure and a privilege for me to get on this microphone and speak to you. I've really been enjoying the podcast, and I can't thank you enough for listening. So you guys are awesome. If you're enjoying the show and you want to help us out, there's a couple different ways you could do that. You could consider leaving a 5-star rating and review on Apple Podcasts or Spotify. Those really help out with the distribution. There's a lot of games that we have to play in order to do a podcast, and that's one of them. If you leave a comment or a review, I will read those on the air. We did get a Spotify comment last week from Jim. This is hey Aden, first of your episodes I'm listening to. This is from the did Blizzard break the Race to World First episode 2 episodes ago. Hey Aden, first of your episodes I'm listening to. Heard you on Thrall's Balls. They're everywhere. You can call me Drastio. Don't know or care how to change the name on Spotify. Well, all right, there you go, Drastio. Thank you so much. I appreciate that. Yeah, I had so much fun on Thrall's Balls with Wooly and Johnny Tips. That was great fun. If you haven't listened to that episode, I would definitely listen to it. They're great guys, and we had a lot of fun. So check that out. I think it was episode 227 or something like that. Anyway, I'll put a link to that in the show notes. I put one last week, but I'll put one this week again so that you guys can check out Thrall's Balls. Give them some support. They deserve it. They're really good people. So, right. So yeah, there you go. That's how you can help us there. If you're watching us on YouTube, you can help us out by giving us a like and a subscribe, and by leaving a comment there as well. Although I don't really read YouTube comments because those are usually just like, hey, whatever. You don't even have to leave a comment on YouTube. You could just give a thumbs up emoji, honestly, and that would help, because that really helps the algorithm. Because YouTube is like, oh, people are commenting on this video and blah blah blah. So that helps there as well. The other way that you could help us out is by joining our Patreon. Patreon is where people can give their IRL money to help out with the production costs for the show. You can get there by going to patreon.com/Azeroth United, and yeah, I mean, it's like I said before, this is a great way to help out the show. It does cost money to host a podcast and to, I'm paying for a couple different things. There's the equipment, the microphone, stuff like that. So people have asked if they can help out, put it out there. Some people joined in, and I think that's great. I love it. It means so much to me to know that people actually care enough to donate money. That if you have ever done any sort of content creation, you know that feeling where you're like, wow, somebody's giving me their money. This is, wow. I thought I was bad, and I guess it's not as bad as I thought. So anyway, I do want to thank our top tier patrons. That's our friend of the show. That's Stug Life, Thelial, Greybeard, Raven, Azarin, and Agro Management. Thank you all so much. You guys definitely help make Azeroth United possible. And yeah, there you go. So check that out. You can also jump over to our Discord server if you want to say hi. That's just go to AzerothUnitedPod.com. It's got the link to the Discord and everything else on there. And that's it. So thank you again for listening. Remember to be good to each other out there. That's a real life person on the other side of that keyboard, and maybe they like the story just the way it is, and they just want every cinematic to have Xalatath's toes in it because they're in love with corpse feet, or whatever it is. You know what? You can just smile and say, "Hey, Mitz, cool, buddy. Whatever you want to do, that's fine." Everybody's got their thing, but all you have to do is be nice. Just smile. And if you want to tease somebody, that's fine. You can tease, but ultimately, be nice. Don't be an ass. That's number one rule. Don't be an asshole. All right. Take care. I love you all, and I'll see you in Azeroth.